Hello, welcome to the Desert Blockchain monthly session on Wednesday, April the 26th, 2017. My name is Jay Carpenter, the founder of the Desert Blockchain events. And tonight we're going to have lightning talks where basically anybody can present a 5 to 10 minute session on topics related to blockchain. I would like to say that please keep your content to informational and educational versus propositional. So in other words, the intention is to educate versus promote. So it looks like we've got some folks joining in. Hey, Jacob, welcome. Can you hear me? All right. I am going to pull up some information. That I would like to share with folks. Please bear with me. I do that. And Jacob, if you can hear me, will you unmute your mic or open up your video? And okay, great. Thank you. And I assume the video is coming through okay as well, Jacob. All right, perfect. I am actually at the Burton Bar Library this evening, although this is a virtual session. The library, this is basically an experiment tonight where we're trying out a completely virtual session. I apologize for getting the link information out late. In the future, I'll get things set up earlier so that there's not any uncertainty about what the link information is. So let's see. Let's see what time it is, 7:02. So I am going to, let's see. Pardon me. I'm answering a question right now. Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and kick things off with a short talk on something that occurred just, what was it, a couple days ago? And I think it highlights things that are going on in the ecosystem. So let me time myself here. Hang on, it looks like somebody's looking for the push. You looking for the Desert Blockchain?
Yeah.
Welcome. I'm Jay. Yeah.
Ryan.
Hey, Ryan. Nice to meet you. Have a seat. Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you.
Anything you're interested in covering tonight, Ryan?
Not particular. I just I've been involved in Bitcoin, Ethereum for four and a half years now. So I just wanted to, haven't been active in the local community.
Here's some other folks.
I'm trying to get back.
Hey.
Are you Jay?
I am Jay.
Jason.
Hey, Jason.
Sorry, I guess we thought it was in person here. So.
Well, I'm just explaining this. I'm going to go ahead and have a seat. I'll set this up. It's kind of a hybrid.
We just kind of joined the meeting.
Yeah, that's cool.
I don't know why you guys have been meeting or.
Well, we've been meeting for a long time, but tonight we're kind of trying something a little bit different. So.
Yeah, I saw the address here, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
If it was going to be an in-person meetup, like a hybrid type thing, or what it was.
Well, last month we met over here at this other, this Hive, and I ran into some scheduling issues with them, so I thought I'd try it all virtual. So we'll have a combination of both.
Okay.
So, okay, if that works for you guys.
Sounds good for me.
And I'm gonna change the setting just a little bit here. Let's see, that's good. Okay, testing 1, 2, 3. All right, great. So this is a bit of an experiment. I appreciate everybody's patience.
Okay.
Reset this up. So, and then I'll scoot over there.
Did you send out the Google Hangout link?
I did. I didn't send it out till late. In the future, I'll get that out.
I didn't see it in my email box here.
It just was sent out, so.
Okay. I see the Google Calendar notifications in there somewhere.
Yeah. So, I just sent it out. In the future, I'll send that out earlier. So why don't we just kind of introduce ourselves again, and
Yeah.
There should be some folks joining us on the Hangout. So Ryan, you've been in the Ethereum space for some time?
Yeah, actually, I was introduced to Bitcoin in 2012.
Oh, wow.
And bought my first Bitcoins at like $10.
Wow, 8 cents.
Congratulations.
8
8
cents.
cents, wow.
Yeah, so
Very cool.
But it was just at the time, it was like, oh, this is cool.
Right.
And then as I went down the rabbit hole, I thought, no, this is more than cool. This is world changing.
It is.
And then,
Ethereum, sure.
Yeah, and then I started up a startup. I had a startup. I kind of did start doing some conferences and events in Miami, New York, San Francisco.
Oh, awesome.
I spoke at a few. I actually was the person who spoke right before Vitalik Buterin came on in Miami to introduce Ethereum.
Wow.
So I was wondering why there was a full crowd, and I knew it wasn't for me. So, yeah, and I interviewed Vitalik as he was actually making Ethereum, and I thought that this was cool, but I was like, oh, that's going to be like 3 years. But here we are 4 years later, and it's doing what it is doing. So just last year, I was out of the space for a little bit, just kind of figuring out what I wanted to do after that startup didn't really go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I lost my co-founder. So I kind of just was working at a couple companies. They wanted my knowledge about Bitcoin and blockchains, banking, kind of consulting stuff. But I'm more of a marketing guy, product marketing. And so kind of bounce around. And I have this job right now as a product marketing manager, but on the side, I've been following Ethereum more closely since last year. Right before all of the DAO stuff happened, but it was intriguing enough for me to stick with it, and done pretty well with it obviously this year, and as far as an investment, and now I've kind of got some ideas about what I might want to do as far as a new idea, a new concept for like a new startup idea. So I'm trying to connect and network again and kind of see who's who in the valley, and
Okay. So would it be beneficial if people contacted you on Meetup if they're interested in getting involved in the startup?
Yeah,
That sort of thing?
yeah. Like I said, I'm a product guy, marketing, so I know product marketing, sales side of everything. I'm not a developer or a designer, although I can speak their language in many cases, so I know what they're talking about, and I work with designers and developers for my full-time job. But those are the types of people I'm looking for, people who are passionate about blockchain technology, that know it, that understand mainly Ethereum, because that's what I'm focused on right now.
Mm-hmm.
And just looking for good developers that know that space. If I could find somebody that knows Solidity, that would be a
Good
big
luck.
plus. Yeah, so it's like finding the unicorn, obviously. So
Yeah. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So if you want to, post some way to contact you on the meetup, that'd be great.
Okay. Well,
because part of the intention of this whole group is to build a community here in Phoenix that's interested in the decentralized web and distributed ledger and blockchain, obviously. And I've been talking with some folks about actually creating like a collaborative workspace where we could meet.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And, so that hopefully will happen at some point.
that'd be cool.
So,
Yeah, something kind of along a blockchain incubator type,
yeah.
or just a co-working space focused on that type of
Mhm.
those type of
Crypto
yeah.
and blockchain. It's my understanding that one of the big financial institutions has a crypto lab down in Chandler.
Yeah,
I think it's
I'm
Wells
trying to think,
Fargo.
yeah, it might be. I
But
think I remember hearing something about that.
yeah, so anyway, yeah, awesome.
Cool.
And anything in particular you'd like to get out of tonight other than making some connections and stuff?
Yeah, I just kind of was coming to like check it out, and it's my first time checking it out. I was looking online to see who's doing anything in the valley. I see so much going on outside and all around the world, and I'm like, what's going on in my backyard here? Who's into this stuff like me? And what are they doing? So I just want to find out who's doing what, and kind of make some connections and friends, and
Awesome.
like-minded people.
Cool.
So I kind of got into the whole Bitcoin thing, like you said, was about 8 cents each, and I had no idea really what it was. I was like, 8 cents each. This is kind of an interesting idea, decentralized financial stuff, So I bought several hundred back then, but then there was the NTGOX hack, and all that nonsense happened, and all of my initial investments into Bitcoin, whatever, are gone now. I mean, now it's completely different. I'm heavily invested in Ethereum and various other cryptos, but I'm also a developer. I was just out in Washington about a month ago for the IPFS hackathon.
Oh, awesome. Cool.
We took second place.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Very cool.
With
I'm
Carbon Harvest.
Oh, that's
With another guy who was out there with Paul. Him and I worked on it together. So
cool.
we did the IPFS meetup and our hackathon. We went out for drinks, and then we did this big virtual reality thing back at whatever house they were staying at, some Airbnb and whatever. So nice networking up there. Did some Solidity, but it was like kind of still rough. And I'm very, very novice at that. Ended up doing a lot in Meteor JS, and, a lot of JavaScript, but I tried to do it in a lot of Visual Studio stuff because Microsoft is pretty substantial with Azure, a lot of offerings for Ethereum and things like that. So that's kind of where I'm at, and now I'm back here. I've built some miners for Ethereum, and they switch back and forth, and do a lot of financial API stuff with trading, and so that's where I'm at.
Do you work Do you work for a company full time?
I don't actually work currently.
Okay.
So I've done startups. I do freelancing.
Freelancing.
Yeah. So
Cool.
I mean, a lot of my money is made just from crypto.
Right. Yeah. I'm kind of getting almost to that point too.
awesome. Cool.
Jack, and I met Jason in the early days of this. We were making a Wi-Fi sprinkler timer controller, irrigation controller, and I don't really know anything about the web. Just a big user, so. But I'm a hardware engineer, boards and FPGAs, microprocessors, so RF and I could make, the idea of the mesh network would kind of intrigue me if there's any hardware could be done with that. But I was helping Jason put together a GPU miner. So we got that up and running, and we're looking at ways to make it cheaper and overclock and that kind of stuff. Find a cheap source of electricity.
A GPU miner for Bitcoin or Ethereum?
Ethereum.
It's Ethereum focused right now, but
Mhm.
in theory, it goes for Degree and cash and et cetera.
What near term I've been interested in too is to do the, we're going to be working for a medical foundation pretty quickly, and we may need millions, if not billions, of SPICE simulations. So I was thinking of a way to reward people to do this, to turn over their CPU and have these simulations done and earn some credit for it or something like that. And so you gather all this huge database in a pretty short. The main thing is to get it as quickly as possible, rather than even if we bought the hardware and did a simulation every cell intake, anywhere between 1 second and 4 minutes on a very fast simulator from Mentor Graphics. But if we could distribute it out to tens of thousands, they could earn credit for it. I just want to touch on that subject and see if there's something possible to be done with that.
Have you heard of Gollum?
Mhm.
Have you looked into that?
Column.
Yeah. That's,
The decentralized computing, I was kind of talking about it a little bit on the web here. I was actually kind of ragging on it a little bit. I really like Gollum. Yeah.
Oh, because you can't
But it's
protect
not
the
zero,
privacy.
it's not zero
Oh,
knowledge.
I'm not worried about the privacy on this one.
Right.
This is not, I'm not worried about privacy.
And Gollum's built on IPFS, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about,
Planetary.
I'd love to hear more about IPFS. I love the IPFS idea.
yeah,
It's huge. All my Facebook posts are IPFS something.
Yeah.
This is a really cool idea. Why is everybody not talking about this? Nobody says anything.
Yeah, I was actually, I'm trying to still kind of figure out a little bit the difference between that and Swarm.
Swarm, yeah.
I don't know how different or how similar they are.
I don't know much about Swarm, but I know it's very
But it's a
similar.
similar idea, concept.
Excuse me, somebody's going to be joining us here.
And I don't know if you watch Silicon
Right? The last episode.
Literally
And then
the
do
first
some
episode was
screenshot.
an idea that was basically
Ethereum advanced computing, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, the way he described what he wants to do is basically
I know, yeah.
Gollum, Ethereum kind of
Right.
concept.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So pardon me for just a minute. Somebody's going to be talking about I think it's called anti-bleed. Which is a new wrinkle on security in the Bitcoin mining. And I've got a communication on that, but hopefully if Elio joins us, he knows a lot more about security and so forth. So this is supposed to be lightning talks, and we'll just kind of, it's a loose lightning talk, let's put it that way. We have one person joining us, and I think a few more are watching, and Jacob, you're welcome to chime in at any point if you'd like. Hello, can you hear us, Jacob? I know you can hear us. He sent us a message. So Jacob and Jack, you guys might want to talk because Jacob is into the healthcare arena. So, you guys can connect, see if there's any common ground. But let me talk about something that's happening here in town that might be of interest to you, Jack, because you're interested in hardware.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Citrix? The
Webinar, it's a lot of those meeting things.
Yeah, GoToMeeting.
Citrix, yeah.
I think it's GoToMeeting. So there's a fellow in town who's the director of the Internet of Things for Citrix. His name is Chris Matthew. And he has gotten really interested in IPFS.
Mhm.
And he did a video recently showing how to control devices using IPFS without a server.
The files are everywhere in the world.
Well, it's using the IPFS protocol, the libp2p. Actually, the thing that opened it up was the PubSub in, I think, the JS IPFS. So that's something you might be interested in. And he's been out of town, but he did a brief introduction at the Internet of Things meetup. But there's a big appetite here locally to start to demonstrate what IPFS can do in terms of controlling devices without any server.
That's interesting.
So, and Chris is actually going to be one of the keynote speakers at the Intel IoT Dev Fest that's coming up in June. I think it's June 3rd. So we'll be sure.
Here in Phoenix?
No, it's a virtual Dev
Of
Fest.
course, one thing.
Yeah. So anyway, would that be something of interest to you?
Yes, because he's connected to a pretty professional company that maybe will pull this off, because we're pretty serious about this. We're the foundation we founded this summer, and it's very well funded, and it's looking at something called electrical impedance tomography. And there's a lot of math that has not made a lot of headway, but I think we can accelerate it by just having, almost like a Google file system of billions of very close to a particular person's body, and it finds the closest match it can in the beginning. And then it accelerates the computations with like Monte Carlo methods and some other mathematical stuff. So it would be a very interesting way to, and a very inexpensive way to get a close look at what's going on in the body as far as bleeding, authentic, real blood bleeding, not what is anti-bleed thing. I'm not sure.
No, that's a virus thing.
For example, with a stroke, if a person has a stroke, there's two kinds, and there's one that has hemorrhaging and one that doesn't have hemorrhaging. If you can give them a medicine immediately, if they have a thinner, then you can save a lot of brain. If they have the hemorrhaging, you will kill them if you give them this. So you need to make a decision and real quick. And so that's the kind of stuff but to do that, it's very difficult to actually see inside and with injecting currents and pulling things out. But you could make a SpiceNet list and do just millions and millions of them and try to find something very close to a particular person's physiology, and that would be quite useful. But to get those files together, there'd be probably billions of files, something like that. So it could be kind of interesting. We got to learn more and more about it, but having an outlet that we could possibly send this out, distribute it, and have all the simulations done would be pretty useful.
And have you guys talked about the possibility of using IPFS for that?
Briefly, yeah.
So just
Very
briefly.
briefly, yeah.
And are you just getting introduced to IPFS?
I know the buzzword, that's it.
Okay.
I'm so proud to know that.
I never wanted
I know that.
Okay, cool.
Because I know a lot about hardware and FPGA and microprocessor, board layout and all the mishmash. When it comes to web, it's like, although I do Visual Studio, I do a lot of GUI stuff and like that for Visual Studio, but I've never gone off into the web world.
Now, are you familiar with something called page nodes?
There was a class on nodes, a meetup on nodes.
That's Node.js, yeah.
That's Node.js, that's different.
Okay.
So there's another group in town that's not only looking at tying all sorts of hardware together via the web,
Yeah.
but also they're interested in some medical applications. So I can get you in touch with them as well. So there might be
Page
some,
nodes.
yeah, check out Page Nodes. It's a variation, it's actually derived from IBM's Node-RED, which is to tie devices together sort of in the cloud. And then OctoBlue is another device-centric cloud and web-based IoT platform that's run by Citrix, that's been developed by Chris Matthew.
Same guy, yeah.
Same guy, but I think Chris's head has been turned by the possibility of having a serverless, completely, peer-to-peer distributed network.
And somehow I'm beginning to get this concept of the blockchain has the ability to find where these files are somehow and
The blockchain is more like what I'll call sort of the existence system to sort of keep track of
It's
things.
the ledger.
Yeah, it's the ledger.
Distributed ledger.
It's more like the accounting system
Yeah.
on a distributed peer-to-peer basis. I'm starting to play around with describing it to people that never heard of the blockchain as it's sort of like a way to Uber your bank. So it's sort of like Uber for banking, Uber for
Airbnb.
Airbnb information, whatever. It's sort of like all of a sudden we can all be our banks for one another.
Yeah, instead of holding funds, I mean, today our money is really digital, even though we have dollars, they're mostly digital,
right.
but they reside in centralized banking ledgers. Bank of America's centralized banking ledger, Chase's centralized banking ledger, whereas the blockchain is just an open public ledger. Anybody can see that a certain amount of coin is sitting there on the blockchain.
Wow.
And now the only person that can access that is somebody that has the private key to unlock it.
So it looks like somebody's joined. I can't quite read that name. Hello? You might be on mute. Okay. Ryan, can you see the name on that?
Jacob, is it?
Well, there's Jacob,
Yeah.
but then this one next to it.
Jatinder?
Okay. Hello, welcome. Can you see what Jacob is posting there? I might not have my speaker.
Yeah, that you might not have.
Let's see if. Hello, Jacob, could you say something? Okay. I don't know why.
You said something? Text something?
Is this on mute?
This is a microphone. What we need is a speaker. But anyway, feel free to chime in if you can. So there's some interest in town around controlling devices in a serverless fashion, completely peer-to-peer. And the blockchain is kind of part of this whole movement, but there's other dimensions to it, like IPFS.
So where would the IPFS files, where do they actually really live? Where do the files really live?
Everywhere.
Yeah.
So, but it knows where to find everywhere, it knows this guy.
Mhm.
Okay. So like the whole world's a big disk drive and it knows where this sector, that sector.
That way it can't be intercepted or, by any
No.
central entity.
Yeah, so let me see if I
love
can.
the whole concept,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like replacing government, I love it.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. So we're currently sitting in the middle of the largest library in Phoenix. And part of the reason that I picked this location is to illustrate this notion of decentralized or distributed content, as well as how this whole thing works. So in the past, and what Jack is talking about, what he's kind of toying with is this decentralized notion. In the past, if we want to get a book like this is Andreas Antonopoulos' Mastering Bitcoin. If we wanted to get this book, we would come here to the Burton Bar Library, and assuming we could get through the front door, we could basically pick up this book and read it and get whatever we wanted out of this book, as well as we would have access to all the other books that are in this library. But the key was being able to get through the front door. Looks like somebody's posting a message there.
Mic issue.
Microphone
It
issue?
says mic issue.
Oh.
Is the microphone muted?
Well, I think they can hear us. You can see the
Oh, yeah.
the level.
Yeah, they can hear-
He might have a mic
yeah, I think
issue.
he has a mic issue.
Yeah. So I think Jacob.
They're saying all kinds of stuff now.
I can hear, but
Can't talk?
it's on their side.
Okay. So again, using this book as an example, up until this whole peer-to-peer architecture came along, if we wanted this book we could get through the front door, we got access to this book and every other book that's in this library. The new architecture is, what if we could take this book and create a representation of this book that was in a fixed length format, and once we got that sort of code, then we could sort of step through piece by piece and reconstruct this entire book. And we don't need to get through the front door of the library anymore. If Jason has the book and you know the code and you can check the code, then you can trust that whatever Jason is giving you regarding this book is the same content. Or Jay has it, or Ryan, or whatever. That's a completely different architecture. And correct me if I'm wrong, because you seem to be pretty technical on this stuff.
No, that's good. It sounds cool.
But so now all of a sudden we've got this whole new paradigm of not only can we trust that we can get the closest closest copy of the content, but we also can trust that we're getting the version that we want and only what we want. Does that make sense?
And it's exactly what we want.
It's exactly what we want.
It is what it says, it is what we think it is, right?
Yep. We could, through the IPFS software, we could get a representation of everything, every single letter that's in this library could be represented by a fixed length hash, okay? And if so much as one comma was changed to a period in any one of the books in this library, that hash would be completely different.
Ah.
Does that make sense? This thing got.
Oh.
Okay, testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. Let me see if this fella's. Hello. Hello. Oh, sorry. All right, so Robert, thank you for letting us know that we lost the audio. Hopefully it's back. Somebody's giving us a message here. Anyway. So
We still can't hear them.
they still can't hear?
Oh, we can't hear them.
Oh, we can't hear them, yeah. I don't know why.
Where's the link?
So you can go to just desertblockchain.com and it should be live streaming there.
Oh, there's a website.
Yeah. So, and if you put on like your headset just to listen to the audio.
Will this be available for playback later then?
Yeah, it's being recorded. So, so in terms of the meetups, absolutely. The idea, part of doing this virtually, is to have it open to the world, so that we're not only are we building. Yeah, there's about like a 10-second delay. It's really annoying, but just if you could just check it to make sure that we've got, sound coming in. That's all I'm really concerned about. But
Yeah.
part of the purpose of this meetup, the Desert Blockchain meetup, is to build a community locally, so that we're making connections. Like, I'm sharing with Jack. I think it's awesome that you're into IPFS. And we can start to get some momentum. And there's another crypto that's here in town called Nexus. It's got a market cap of about $15 million or so. And the core developers here. And then there's another meetup called Blockchain Tech that
Like on Tuesdays, right?
yeah, something like that. And Brian Gemrick, who runs that, has gotten involved as one of the core developers with Nexus.
Okay.
So, I think we've got, plus we've got a political climate that's very friendly to blockchain. David Schweikert, who's our congressman, is the co-organizer of the DC Blockchain Caucus.
Really?
Yeah,
There was a blockchain legislation passed a couple months
Yeah.
ago, right?
Right.
59-0.
Recognizing
Yeah.
smart
Right.
contracts or
Right.
recognize.
There's the Tezos blockchain coming up soon.
so, let's see. There's so many different ways we could go at this point. Let me do just kind of a quick, maybe you and I can do just kind of a quick 10-minute talk on IPFS. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So I was actually watching that hackathon in Seattle.
Oh, you were?
Mhm. Yeah. And I wasn't part of the whole thing, but I watched like Jeremy Johnson's talk and the fellow from Ethereum and so forth. But
Paul presented ours,
okay, cool.
I
Yeah, I didn't see the end result.
I see, okay.
I just was there for sort of.
It's all good. There was really nothing super extreme that was accomplished. So, it was basically both of our introduction to using IPFS development and using Ethereum to decentralized application development.
So 2 things on IPFS. Number one, in my view, IPFS is the most exciting project out there.
I would definitely agree.
And and even though there's a lot of buzz around Ethereum and the smart contracts, and the market cap on Ethereum's gone through the roof, technically I think IPFS is the most interesting
I would
and
absolutely
promising
agree. Sure,
initiative out there.
absolutely.
The second thing about IPFS is that their monetary component is yet to be introduced, which is Filecoin. And I think that could come back to your application, Jack,
That's how you pay them to do the work.
the computation.
Computations, huh?
So where Ether is the money for Ethereum
Dapps.
to do computations and everything's focused around that, Filecoin is designed, once it's introduced, to provide incentive for storage and I assume computation and all that sort of thing, something similar to Ether. So I think that the core team at Protocol Labs is really focusing on the technology, get the technology far enough along so that it's really solid and compelling, and then introduce the crypto part of it. And so that, you know, what we're seeing happening is that the appetite for this cryptocurrency is so huge, and a lot of it is just, you know, I want to buy low and sell high.
Speculation.
Yeah.
It's speculation.
ICO fever, it's like the .com.
Yeah, yeah. That it just quickly can get out of control. We just saw that with Gnosis.
Right. Yeah.
And that was,
I was talking
I got
about
into
it
We
like
Trust.
12 minutes.
We Trust last week and bought it at like 3 cents and it's already 18.
Yeah.
$18?
No, 18 cents.
Oh, 18 cents.
So 6 times in a week.
Yeah.
Stuff.
So I mean, everybody would, you know, I'm sure like to buy low and sell high, and the higher the better.
Sure.
But from the technology side of things, things get pretty wacky pretty quick.
Right.
And that, I think that can be a problem. So, so anyway, IPFS, everybody watching this, I'd highly recommend you keep an eye on IPFS. And I am actually have gotten involved with the sprints and getting online and participating. I am kind of a beginning coder, so my technical knowledge is still emerging, and you
I
know,
think in this field though, everybody is.
yeah, everybody is kind of, but they're certainly interested in having other people join the weekly sprints and getting involved. Kyle Drake is involved with IPFS, who's created NeoCities,
Right.
which
I've
is-
heard of that.
which is one of the biggest applications of IPFS. So
What is NeoCities?
it's basically individual websites,
Kind of like GeoCities.
like GeoCities, only it's NeoCities. So if you wanted
GeoCities? No.
if you wanted your own website, you know, kind of quick and simple, whatever. I'm not an expert in this at all, but you could go to NeoCities and it would be hosted in a decentralized peer-to-peer fashion. So anyway,
Well, you know, quite a few Ethereum dApps are actually that they're using IPFS or planning to.
Right.
One of the ones I'm excited about is, since I actually have a degree in real estate from ASU, is Rex MLS, which is a decentralized MLS system, and they're going to be using IPFS for that. So I'm noticing a lot of
What's it called Rex MLS?
Rex MLS, yeah.
and they did a podcast on epicenter.tv
Mhm.
on Rex.
Yeah, like in the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're about to do, I think they'll have their alpha in June, and they're doing a crowd sale July.
Mm.
But, you know, they have a solid concept. I've been talking to them
Cool.
for about almost a year now, so.
And you did a presentation at the Next World.
Miami, North American Bitcoin Conference, Miami.
Yeah, but you also did one recently here in Scottsdale, didn't
Yeah,
you?
it was for Futurists, Arizona Futurists.
Right.
We just had a little informal.
My
Yeah.
undergrad,
Yeah.
I started my master's in software engineering, but I did my undergrad in urban planning, so that's interesting.
Cool.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Here,
Here,
locally?
yeah, issue. Everything
Awesome.
I did all issue, yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
actually, I went from architecture to real estate, and then more into the tech side of everything.
Cool. Awesome.
But yeah, so I think I've been it's interesting you start mentioning IPFS because I just in the last few weeks I've been like I've known about it for a while. I'm taking a deeper dive into it. I'm like, this is really cool. The one part, maybe you can speak to it, but about it being a replacement to HTTP.
Right.
Do you
Mhm.
know how that?
I have the specific video posted on there. I didn't post that video, but the
Yeah. Because I'm like,
HTTP versus IPFS. Yeah.
And Rex uses IPFS.
they're building that into what
Right.
they're building right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be a part of it.
So you want to speak to the replacement for HTTP?
Not really.
Okay. So last summer in June, it was June 8th and 9th, I think, there was an event at the Internet Archive in San
It
Francisco
was, yeah.
called the Decentralized Web Summit.
Right.
And
Just mesh network stuff, mesh network?
well, it was all this decentralized distributed technology stuff, but it was like it was amazing. It was like the people that invented the internet were there, and the people that are inventing what's next in the internet or the web were there, including Tim Berners-Lee,
Really?
who created
Right.
HTTP.
Yeah.
So there were
CERN, yeah.
so there if anybody's interested, the talks are posted at the decentralized, I think it's decentralizedweb.net or something like that, or org.
Probably .io or something.
Yeah, but anyway, there's pretty cool talks around that. And then Vince Cerf was there.
And his friend who was there, I remember him posting a bunch of stuff that looked really interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't see any of the talks. His name was Ryan Fricks.
Yep, I sat next to him.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Mhm.
I grew up with him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So did you hang out at HeatSync Labs?
I didn't. I want to go to Heatsink Labs.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you
I've
gotta
never
go to
been
HeatSync.
down there yet. Yeah. So
Oh, man.
I live up in North Phoenix. So.
Where's
Oh,
that?
okay.
Where's
It's where I live.
Heatsink Labs is down.
It's in Mesa.
Downtown Mesa, yeah.
It's on Main Street in Mesa.
what is that? Is
You
it-
take the light rail there now, yeah.
Yeah,
what-
you can take
what
that.
what kind of lab is that?
It's the geekiest of geek.
It's just like a.
Yeah, it's a big word. It co-op space.
It's like a maker space.
Lab, yeah.
Okay.
It's a maker space, but some of the best talent in town is there. And like a lot of the people from Orbital and Intel and
Yeah, I've heard of that.
hang out there.
It's like a Fernando guy that did the one, we had that node meeting,
Mhm.
that he works on HeatSync
At
Labs.
Heatsink.
Yeah, and Louis Montez.
Is that who it is?
Louis Montez,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's the guy, he's really.
Yeah,
really-
well, he's the one that wrote Page Notes.
Ah, okay.
He's the driver behind Page
So
Notes.
definitely need to talk to him.
And
Lou?
Louis Montez of
Louis Montez.
Ice Dev. So, and Louis and Sam and part of his company do a Thursday coffee and code down at First Draft in downtown Phoenix. So if, anywhere from like 9 a.m. till about noon, they're usually hanging out at First Draft, which is about Camelback and Central. And you can go down there and,
Talk to him.
talk to them and see what they're doing in terms of the medical applications and the IoT and the peer-to-peer stuff.
Thursday
So,
9 to noon, first draft.
yeah,
Lou Montez.
yeah, it's another meetup. It's called Coffee and Code Phoenix, and they do one out at HeatSync on Wednesdays. So, like in the morning to around noon or so. So anyway, so what's next? What else do we want to talk about? We could just go on all night long. What do you like most about Monero?
So like the issues with, Dash and Zcash are kind of the two other semi-private currencies, and the issues I have with those are either that it's sort of like a corporate coin, so they impose like a 20% tax on the miners, so it's arguably like not as organic. Like Zcash is not trustless, so you have 6 people who it's kind of a trusted system. So you can print out unlimited coin. Dash is not completely centralized, but it's not completely decentralized either because it has the master nodes. And so
Which costs like $85,000 to
Now, yeah.
Yeah, now it
Maybe
does,
see
but
it real cheap.
then you have like the issues of like the whole the pre-mine where like within the
Mhm.
first 8 hours, 1.5 million coins were mined, so that there's a person who owns a good chunk effectively of the master nodes, and just yeah. So basically, from kind of a decentralization security perspective, more narrow is what appeals to me, and part of that was, or I guess why I looked into it was, I mean, with this current administration, like all of the legislation, like anti-net neutrality and whatnot, like I've kind of had a passing interest in Bitcoin, but as like things like what was it? Like you hear about things like India and other governments starting to mess with currency more and more, and a lot of I don't know. It seems like a lot more hostile world, even within like the tech sphere, and just basically kind of the non-traceability, leakability aspects of Monero are particularly appealing. So I can pay my VPN provider through Bitcoin, because there's not really any third-party layer kind of payment service with Monero, but you still get the opaque kind of ledger aspects of Monero, which no one can tell that you're actually paying a VPN provider.
Are they
with.
using zero knowledge proofs in that, or how do they do the opaque?
Zcash, right?
Yeah.
Well, that was Zcash
That's
does,
Zcash, yeah.
but Monero, how
It's
did they?
different. It's they use what's it called, crypto notes?
Yeah, it's a fork of the CryptoNote protocol. So there were some issues with CryptoNote. I don't remember exactly what they were.
Right. They call it something else. It's like CryptoNote, like ring theory.
Well, yeah. So Monero uses ring CT, which is confidential transactions. So it's, I think, if I remember correctly, Greg Maxwell of blockchain originally came up with the concept of CT, and then Monero kind of combined it with their own concept of ring, and so they kind of merged the two together, and so you have this concept called what's called ring CT, which is the default for all transactions, which is kind of a differentiator between like Zcash particularly, where the default is public. So like from a security perspective, that's important too, right? Because the smaller your private transaction pool is, it kind of compromises by sort of like a fringe effect basically other transactions, because you can still do analysis on the public transactions and so forth. But yeah, so basically kind of the whole security or privacy is kind of the default mode for Monero, which you would think that most cryptocurrencies are trying to gear towards, privacy. That's like their core pillar of what makes them unique. That would be something they want turned on by default, but that doesn't seem to be the case for pretty much any other cryptocurrency, unfortunately. And from a trust aspect, so like I could kind of mention before, like Dash has the issue with the pre-mine, but Monero came from, there was like basically effectively, I think, 2 forks. So before Monero, there was BitMonero, which was, there was basically, I forget what his name was. But there was like a developer who was like basically kind of taking advantage and trying to, sort of push his governance onto BitMonero. And then prior to that, basically there was an issue with, I think, basically, long story short, there wasn't a fair mine, so that's effectively why they forked twice. Whereas like Dash, like the issue was kind of, once the issue was discovered, rather than allow for fair mining, they just decided to continue forward with, a very, very small group of people having a very, very sizable amount of the total amount of coins that will be mined, which is kind of sketchy, especially.
So it's like 1.5 million coins for Dash?
Yeah, I think it's roughly about 15% of the total coins that will be mined. So
And at $100 a pop.
and so
Yeah.
you throw in like the aspects
So it's
of the
a
master nodes, and then it becomes extremely concerning because then, like, if someone compromises someone who owns a sizable chunk of master nodes, it increases like the likelihood that your transaction will go through the master nodes, and
Mhm.
someone can sort of effectively decrypt your transactions.
Yeah,
So
yeah, okay, cool. So, go ahead, Jack.
Does Monero, is it mined with GPU or ASIC?
It's not, it's ASIC proof, isn't it?
it's ASIC proof.
Right.
So
Well, that's another good thing about it, I would think.
that's another feature. Is they want it to be more CPU friendly, so it's more so than Bitcoin, which is obviously ASIC dominated. I can't speak for how the other cryptocurrencies are,
ASIC proof,
mine.
pretty much.
Yeah.
It's-
but
Yeah, it's
yeah,
not just in there, right?
So to me, an ASIC based coin, it's like the guy who develops the ASIC wins.
Yeah.
So what's the point?
Mhm.
Such as the case on Dash, right?
Mhm. Okay. So, what other topics?
I mean, that we're on the topic of mining, I'd be curious what you think about, proof of stake. As we have a couple cryptocurrencies already doing it, and then Ethereum was the big one that is planning to switch. And what?
I wish I could speak more on the topic of proof of stake, but I
Yeah.
don't know enough about it
Yeah.
to really to give an argument versus proof of work versus
Yeah.
proof of stake or POA.
Right. I mean, I don't know any deep technical. I don't have a deep technical understanding. I have a conceptual understanding of it, and everything I'm hearing, it sounds great. I want to see it work.
Right.
you know.
In the DevCon, I have the traditional DevCon videos.
Yeah,
whatever,
and I mean, just the idea of, not having the power and the waste, and
make a huge waste.
yeah, just,
Massive waste.
that's where I was a huge supporter of Bitcoin. I was Bitcoin fanatic for a long time, and I saw that it's probably around late 2014, early 2015 when I started hearing that concept, and that was when Ethereum was introduced, and they talked about this proof of stake algorithm, and then I said, and I'd never heard before about, that we're going to reach a point where Bitcoin is going to have
16
trouble
months, yeah.
scaling, and going to have trouble with, just it'll be not sustainable,
Right.
So
The Ice Age.
right, so.
So, there's a podcast that I haven't listened to.
Consensus or
No, it's on Casper, which is the proof of stake for Ethereum. It's on epicenter.tv, and it's about 2 weeks ago, I think.
Vlad?
Yeah, Vlad
Yeah,
Zamfir. Did you listen to that yet?
I listened to that.
Okay, I haven't listened to it.
Started listening to it actually. I got through half of it. But yeah, go ahead.
And Vitalik, I believe, has posted some stuff on Casper recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't gone through it all.
I'd say it's 75% complete in terms of getting ready to test.
Yeah,
So-
so my concern with Ethereum and proof of stake is how viable is it going to be to switch over? So,
Well, what it sounds like, the last thing I saw, Vitalik, I forget where I read it, was he says there will be most likely a transition where it'll be hybrid proof of stake proof of work for a while. And that might be in Metropolis. So I don't know how that works, but I guess there is actually already a cryptocurrency that's doing that. It's
Is it Decree? No, not Decree. There's one.
there's
There's
another one that's using both simultaneously. I don't know how that works, but then they may do that as a transition, and then at some point, they basically the miners will drop off and go into proof of stake. I think it'll be a different environment, I think, in terms of who now becomes validators, because Now it's just like putting your money in the bank and getting like a dividend producing stock or a CD or something like that. If you stake your coins and whatever you have, of course, then there's actually going to be a minimum where you have to have a certain amount. So not everybody can do it. So it's probably going to be miners and other people who have a decent amount of ether already in their possession to be able to stake. So that'll just be interesting. I'm starting to do a lot more research on that. So, but the speed is what another thing is that'll allow things to happen a lot quicker. And they're saying that with proof of stake, with eventually sharding, you get to a point where it's kind of like Ripple, which is like 3 or 4 seconds. Transactions are almost instant. So, and then do things like Radiant, which are kind of helping out with the more transactional payment, micropayments and things like that. So.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
But anyway, we could do the whole evening on Ethereum, I think.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, any other particular topics? Anybody out there have any topics you'd like to go through?
I'm just curious what people are working on with blockchain technology.
A
Talked about
lot.
Yeah, we talked about a ton already, but I'm just curious.
So let me talk about something that I wanted to go over, which is, it's hard for me to deal with that because I just can't see it. So next week I'm going to something called the Internet Identity Workshop, which is at the, it's in Mountain View near Stanford at the Computer History Museum.
Okay.
And it is, I would say, a gathering of the who's who around decentralized, distributed, self-sovereign identity. And I think that is the key to the kingdom, cracking the identity problem. So at the end of January, I went to San Francisco for the Construct 2017, which was 350 of the developers by invitation that gathered. And the private conversations, off the stage and whatever, everything was about identity. How do we crack this identity nut?
Were the Uport guys there?
The Uport guys were there.
I was talking to them about a job actually last summer.
Yeah, the Uport guys are going to be at this Internet Identity Workshop. The guy that's running the Microsoft Identity Initiative is going to be there. The founder of Ethereum, which is a lot of people are backing Ethereum, which is an identity approach. So the founder of YubiKey, which is a hardware token container, is going to be there. So anyway, if you guys have any questions or whatever you want me to pose, let me know, and I'll be happy to.
Send an email or something.
Yeah, send me an email on Meetup, whatever. You can take a look at the lineup. The lineup's pretty impressive. But it's my view, and then I don't know if anybody from Blockstack's going to be there, but using the blockchain as a part of the existence system for identity is, I think, a key use case that's on the table right now. And I think it would be really, really great if we, here in Phoenix, we started to maybe do a project or something, maybe using IPFS and some of their naming addressing constructs to start to work on the identity element. And my background, by the way, is in telecommunications. So I've spent the last 15 years in naming, addressing, and numbering at the industry level, advisory groups to the FCC, numbering, telephone numbering on a global basis. So that's my area of interest, but identity is part and parcel with that. There's a huge problem now with telephone number ID spoofing.
Yeah.
So, all of our relatives are getting calls with a caller ID that looks like it's from the IRS, and they're getting somebody with a foreign accent telling them they got to pay their taxes or else they're going to get thrown in jail. So it's a huge problem, but I think it permeates many of the dimensions in this distributed realm and the healthcare realm and on, and the prediction markets. Gnosis, if you're familiar with Gnosis, part of their problem is how do you do a payoff, especially in like a cybersecurity situation or a terrorist situation. If you can't pay in an anonymous fashion, that really dampens your use cases for the prediction markets, because nobody's going to turn in a terrorist if, no matter what the reward is, if it becomes known. So I think there's some really interesting use cases with the prediction markets if the identity piece spans both, absolute certain identity all the way to anonymity.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, I think we get some really interesting dynamics out of this.
Speaking of, obviously the holy grail in healthcare would be storing the patient's records so they couldn't be accessed except with the patient's permission.
Mhm.
But in addition to that, what would be really neat is if that same record could be expunged without the identity, so statisticians could go over.
Yeah.
And maybe have
Aggregate data.
you'd learn so much about
Yeah.
some problems and how things are dealt with. I mean, you do incredible research if that were available.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is possible, or very soon will be possible.
ZK Snarks.
Yeah, ZK Snarks with zero knowledge proofs and being able to do that with anonymity, full anonymity. I think that'll be possible. So that's coming. I think Gnosis had mentioned it too about that.
Gnosis.
I mean, if it's forked off of
Yeah,
area, they don't get it right.
right. They'll get it in all of these. A lot of these. So that's part of what's kind of slowing or holding back a lot of these dApps that are coming out right now. Is like they're waiting for some of these things that are on the roadmap for Ethereum, or that are critical to their use cases.
Mhm.
And identity is one of them. That's why it's critical.
Mhm.
And even I saw this Humanique.
Yeah.
They're trying to build a bank for the unbanked,
Mhm.
decentralized bank. You call it banking.
Is it Human Inc. or
Or
Human
Human-
IQ?
Human IQ, or I don't know how you pronounce it.
I read it as human too, but I don't know.
Humanique, yeah.
Human Inc. Okay.
Yeah,
That's how I read it.
Yeah.
that's all right. But yeah, that one had I think it's triangulating face, voice, and phone IP or something like that. Those three things make up your ID,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, and the one thing I'm curious about is whether or not it'll be like kind of like a microcosm. It's a microcosm of the entire blockchain space, where a bunch of people try working on different solutions to the ID problem, and then do they all merge into one, and we kind of have just kind of one to rule them all sort of thing, or are they just going to be sort of interoperable, and you can they all kind of work together. You can choose which one you want.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah,
Because
I don't think there's a definitive answer
Yeah.
yet. I think it's and that's what I'm anticipating will be part of the conversation next week at the Internet Identity Workshop is.
Because you also have like what individuals, what we want is to be our ID and how we want to control our identifying ourselves. And then you have it from the perspective of governments, how they want to identify people. And then you even have businesses that they have a whole perspective on what identification means.
Mhm.
So it's, where's that middle ground between all three?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of human factors in it as well.
Mhm.
Like my identity, sometimes I turn over to my wife
Mhm.
so that she can act on my behalf.
Mhm.
So how do you build in that agency part of it? Yeah, so.
Well, there's also things like with sending money with multi-sig wallets. And,
Mhm.
you know, I like that concept. I like that concept when it comes to like things like wills. I think all wills would be on the blockchain.
Sure,
Not too far away.
Interesting.
Because then you can just you just have to have some way to I guess proof of death if there's such a thing.
Mhm.
And then
That was a big concept.
Well, that's a
like
big
DEF
deal.
CON,
Yeah.
we caught like a year ago, 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
They're spoofing medical records and all kinds of crap.
yeah.
Well, there was just an article about a guy's wife died,
You get the big money, right?
but her Fitbit was still transmitting movement.
Oh, wow.
That's one.
So something happened there.
So, yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so some cool stuff on the
But
table.
yeah, I like what you mentioned about being able to share data. I mean, I would love to be able to share data, aggregate data about me, and collectively with everybody else, like in the world, like to sort of find cures to diseases and things like that. I think that's really cool. But without actually
Without your
revealing
name
your,
identity.
yeah, without your name.
Without identity.
Yeah. Like you get personal information from people without identifying them personally.
Yeah.
Well, and that's part of what's on the table in this Internet Identity Workshop is how do you parse the identity depending on the context?
Mhm.
Because, and the example that's usually put forth is if I want to prove that I'm of age to drink, the only thing I need to prove is that I'm of age and that I'm me. But you don't need to see, as a bartender, you don't need to see my driver's license number, my address, all that other information. There's only certain amounts depending on the context of what really needs to be revealed. And the same thing in healthcare records is, you kind of get the whole body of information on somebody in one big basket when all that's really needed is some little segment of it.
Yeah, I think that's where biometrics will come into play with that. That works very well, I think, with the blockchain in terms of you somehow can set up certain biometrics, attach that, record that on the blockchain, and then wherever you go, if you want to verify you are who you are and you are a certain age and everything, it's a matter of either like a fingerprint, retina scan, whatever. What is it? There's something with like EKG or the heart,
Your signature.
your signature of your
Yeah.
heartbeat, things like
That's a good
that.
one, yeah.
Like you can walk up to an ATM and it'll recognize a unique signature of your heartbeat and know it's you, and only you can, get money out and things like that. So,
So I'm going to kind of open it up to another question. Like, are there any projects you guys would like to work on, like here locally, if we had the opportunity to do that, or work on like during these events, like a hack session, something like what you participated in?
I can always get that back. It's on GitHub, so it was nothing though. I mean, this is months back, so or months back, wherever it was. But mesh networking is a huge interest of mine, FPFS, and using the concepts of I'd love to focus in on that and have a community based on that. There's no IPFS meetup here that I saw on Meetup, right?
No,
So
this is the closest thing to an
Right.
IPFS.
which is
meetup.
exactly. I was like, I'm going there, and there's
Yeah.
IPFS in the agenda. I was like,
So would you be interested in working with some of the hardware folks in maybe doing like a IPFS based mesh networking that
more
Maybe
software based.
maybe controls devices and things like that? Because I think there's a lot of interest in that right now. If we set up a one of these monthly sessions or one of the day longs, maybe, I don't know. The next day long is targeted for Hyperledger with IBM presenting.
IBM's presenting.
hmm Yeah, IBM presented in January on their, what is it, their blockchain as a service. And they wanted to, and there are some people that are participating in the Desert Blockchain that are interested in Hyperledger. So our event in July will be basically focused on Hyperledger.
That's here.
It's not going to be here. I think it's going to be at the IBM office on Central. So,
Okay.
but I'm
in Phoenix.
yeah. No, it's going to be in Phoenix.
Okay.
And I'm open to alternative spaces. I really like the library, but I've had some problems with the scheduling here. So anyway, if anybody has any suggestions, let me know. But working with some of the software, maybe if we did an event, maybe it's just like a Saturday or whatever, where we let me talk to some of the hardware people and see if they'd be interested in doing like a peer-to-peer mesh networking hackathon.
I think second too. I think a DApp. I'd be interested to know what kind of DApp development that you're kind of
Yeah, that's what
focusing
I'm
on too.
following is really this whole new,
like multi-chain.
yeah, all the dApps that are being created and how what the use cases that they're taking on. I've actually got an idea for building an analytics platform for Ethereum and all the dApps.
Analytics of.
Kind of like a Google Analytics
Okay.
of the whole Ethereum ecosystem. So tracking everything from everything on the chain, kind of like Etherscan,
Mhm.
all the blockchain analytics with a really slick UI and everything, and charting both not just the price movement but transactions and the blocks, and but then going into the actual dApps and tracking.
Kind of like a Tableau of.
Okay, kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, a little bit like that. Kind of just a suite of tools, analytics tools to basically track, kind of match that with some news feeds and some fundamental type information like a calendar of what's going on. Just kind of have it be like your hub of just kind of research and analytics. That's kind of what I've been working on. And then the other thing that I'm kind of interested in, which I mentioned, was the Rex MLS, real estate, and how real estate plays into the blockchain. That was one of the first things I thought about when I heard about Bitcoin 4 or 5 years ago. Was, wow, this could be huge for real estate.
Mhm.
And the MLS, assessor map information, deeds, time stamping, and the notary, and the whole process of real estate can be made 100 times more efficient.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Your
And
vested interests are gonna fight you, though.
yeah, it's going to be a slow process. It's going to be a 10, 15-year battle, but
Yeah.
eventually I think we'll get through it, because the real estate moves slow. The industry moves slow.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'd be interested in people that in real estate locally that.
Well, that could be a real focal point
Mhm.
in this town, because
Yeah.
this is a
Phoenix-
real estate centric
Yeah.
community for sure.
Yeah.
So,
That could be huge. Yeah.
you want to think about that a little bit?
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
we could do an event that was real estate centric,
Okay.
maybe using IPFS and Rex
Right.
and whatever.
Okay.
And that could serve a couple purposes. Basically, present a use case that people could learn and experiment and do some things. I think within IPFS, one of their key focuses is IPLD, the linked data, which is traversing Merkle trees and stuff like that. I think that could have some interesting applications in real estate. So maybe if we do the mesh networking and then a real estate centric theme for some sort of events, that could be, really interesting. And then I know there's a lot of interest in healthcare. Yeah. And Scott, it'd be really, really cool if I'm not very well versed in the wallets and the cryptocurrencies and trading those things, but I think one of the key introductory experiences to get into this is to help people set up a wallet and then trade some currency back and forth.
I could bring in the Trezor wallet that I have and show you how to use it.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have a one name now, Ledger S. Have you tried Trezor?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I'm gonna try the Nano too because I hear a lot of good things about that.
So kind of what I'm hearing, and let me bounce this off everybody, but maybe for the next monthly, we could do like a 3 theme evening where we do the real estate and then the mesh networking and then maybe a wallet theme. And then, because I think what we really need to do is just kind of focus on like 2 or 3 topics or themes for an evening and maybe get a little more into the technical part, give people a hands-on, this is how you get something set up. This is, here's something you can do with this. And maybe, do you know if Rex has something that's demonstratable at this point?
There's a demo, I think, out, but I know their alpha version is scheduled June sometime. So that'll be out and you'll actually be able to play with it. They had something out, which was like a really rough version about 2 months ago, but I think they took it down. But,
do you know any of the people that are involved in it?
Yeah, one of the co-founders, Stefan.
Okay.
So he,
Would they be willing to talk to us?
possibly you can reach out to him. Yeah.
That'd be really cool. Because, there's so much interest here in real estate.
Yeah, I know.
So,
And I have quite a few connections here still in real estate that are guys that I work with in commercial. So I'm kind of gearing up and getting my, talk track together about how I'm gonna tell them about what this is, and so it doesn't, because a lot of them it'll just, you don't want to bore them too much with some of the too technical details because they'll just go over their head. But some of them do get it even at the technical level. You just got to know who you're dealing with, and then just kind of explain to them where it fits in with what they're doing. And I think some of it is scary though because it does disintermediate huge chunks of the real estate market, which
I think
if you're in title right now,
I think you got to be right up front with that.
So
because
you either get behind it or you get run over by
it. The difference,
Uber, Airbnb.
Yeah. The difference with this vector is because it's distributed and decentralized, and in many respects open source and transparent and non-proprietary. That's different than other disruptive introductions of entities in the past that were easy to attack because they were proprietary.
Right.
And, then you could, create all kinds of laws and stifling mechanisms and tactics. This is different.
It's organic.
And so, Ryan, I'd be really, really interested, maybe if we did some sort of part of the May Desert Blockchain around this real estate theme, and then maybe focus on the whole evening in June in the real estate theme, and invite your friend Stefan and whatever to maybe do a demo, and that might dovetail with their introduction.
Just a thought.
Yeah, a note for that.
Okay. And then we'll be in contact about that. But
Okay.
that's the intent of this is, this is so broad that, many of our sessions have been just all over the boards, like,
Yeah.
But I think if we can start to focus on, some actual hands-on stuff, especially if it has some appeal to whatever the interest is of this community, I think that could be really, really good. So, all right. Sound good?
Yeah.
So I think we're about at the end of our time.
Yeah, we're about 8:30.
Yeah, just about 8:30. Thank you so much for your participation. Again, the end of July, we're going to have.
Who should be thanking you.
Whoops. How perfect. That's funny. So at the end of July, we'll have a day long with Hyperledger and IBM. We've kind of kicked out some ideas for intermediate events. I'm going to cancel the day long for this Saturday, which I'm going to try to do virtually, and I'm going to be traveling. I'll be in Vancouver. And I'll send out an announcement. I hate to cancel these events, but we just didn't get that many people virtually. So, and I think we covered some really good stuff. So, that's about it.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very good meeting.
Thanks.
It's nice to meet you.
Hope you guys got some stuff out of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get like everybody's like contact information too.
Yeah, well, you can trade on
Meetup?
Meetup.
Just joking.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's post that.
So-
They're on there.
Yeah.
You're on there.
Yeah, we're
Sorry, send you a
focusing-
message, so.
Focusing everything on Meetup now.
Cool. Okay.
So I was doing email blasts, but
Sure.
we're just gonna focus on Meetup.
No
So,
problem.
all right,
Awesome.
cool. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.